Assalamu alaikum, it's Saira Hayati here, just your host at the Malaysia Gazette, talking about unfiltered topics. But before we kick off with anything too serious, we're going to talk about me and the topic that everyone's asking me, the question, why did you come to Malaysia? So before I go into the depths of that, I want you to understand what I came from and why eventually I've landed myself here. We had this great time. I had this fantastic car. I had this fantastic home and the peak of everything that anybody would ever aspire to achieve. But I'm also sensible. So I enjoyed the car for a little while. I am always about investing, spending my money wisely, because when you work for it and when you had absolutely nothing, and remember this, when you have nothing, this is the life in the UK. When you have nothing, you have no money, you don't have that presence, nobody wants to know you. Nobody will give you anything for free. You are not of that level. So you're a nobody. But the minute you have the grand house, the minute you have the grand car, the minute you have that handbag on your arm, the minute you have those posh shoes and the clothing, all of a sudden in my life, because people knew I was successful, they weren't charging me. Oh, don't worry, Sarah, we'll pay for this. Oh, let me get your coffee. Oh, don't worry, I'll pay for dinner. Because it's crazy the mindsets that successful people with money or the world has. They probably had less than I did, and I had the ability to pay for. They know I had the ability to pay, but because they felt that she's successful, they wanted to show, oh, let me get this for you. Let me pay for this. Oh, don't worry about that. It's so crazy, the world, the way that it thinks. The amount of times I went into Costa for a coffee and the girls, they knew me, regular customer. They knew where my business was, and I power dressed. I did. Not ridiculously, because I'm not that crazy that I would pass my money over for something that wasn't a good investment. So I dressed well, but I wasn't silly with purchasing higher brand products that were just going to make me look good. You can carry yourself well without having those brands. You can behave, your manners, everything. All of that is a factor of how you represent yourself. So yeah, people would, oh, don't worry, it's okay. We're not charging you. And it's ridiculous, isn't it, when you think about it? When you had nothing, that's the time when human beings should be lifting you and carrying you and supporting you. So I learned all of these things whilst I was in the UK. And that's terrible, really, because they're not supporting the ones that are in need. And I think coming from Pakistani background, having travelled back to Pakistan, having seen poverty because of our faith and how we conduct ourselves with charity, you are givers to everyone, and it's not the Western way that is embedded in your mind, So I think that taught me a huge lesson in life about where I had positioned myself. My parents went to the UK. They gave us that opportunity, for which I'm exceptionally grateful. However, I'm glad that I still had the values that my mother instilled, because that dilutes over generations and people lose touch of those values. And that's one of the things I really want to share, especially with the next generation, is don't lose those values, to help people who need it, not for the people that don't need it. Yet you will value the person because you think they're successful, because you think they've got money. So that's what the UK gave me. It gave me success. It gave me money. It gave me opportunity. But there was still no satisfaction. There was still something missing. So I had my foster children, as I was saying earlier, and I learned from them. That aspect of life came in, that there is a bigger world out there and there is a lot more to see. And what we really, truly have as a purpose in life, we've lost, because our purpose seems to be to grow and develop ourselves financially and have all of these possessions, and we lose track of the fact of who we are We don't even know our own true personalities. And you have to find yourself almost again. And I'd reached this point, and I'm analyzing my life. I'm analyzing where I am, knowing that you think life goes on forever, don't you? And that I've got all this life ahead of me, and what am I going to do? And there came these tests. So these real challenge, harsh tests that some people will only imagine will happen in their life. And I'm not going to go into detail on the test, but let's just say they were significant enough for me to reassess my entire life. So I did. And that involved me getting closer to spirituality, because the spirituality, Islam, was what we grew up with. I had in my life, but not to the strength or level that I've probably risen to now. But you look for somewhere, when you hit a difficulty, people pray, don't they? And it was an automatic thing to do, to ask, because you've got nowhere else to turn. Where am I going to turn now? Okay, I'm going to turn to prayer, and I'm going to ask Allah to guide me, to help me. And I'm very good at making decisions. I'm very good at implementing, problem solving. I'd say that was my greatest strength. But when I hit these tests, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was bouncing backwards and forwards, unable to make a decision. So I took to asking Allah, how am I going to deal with this? And actually, I got my answers. Literally through that connection. And what was happening was I was finding myself more, and I was finding my spiritual side. And actually, you're thinking, you're yourself. You're by yourself when you pray. You're by yourself when you ask. You talk to yourself, aren't you? You're talking to yourself. You're asking yourself those questions, but actually you're doing it through prayer, and you're asking Allah, I have this problem. How am I going to deal with this? Can you give me some guidance? And the best reference book that we have is the Quran. And I read wherever and whatever, and I got some answers. So that part of my life changed me as a human being. Why? Not because we have deen in our life. If you're a Muslim and you practice, you have it automatically. Maybe in certain countries, they take it for granted. They don't realize the value of it. The same way that I'm living in a land of opportunity, and I am not realizing, like my children don't realize what they have, and they don't value it. So in comes spirituality, in comes a connection to myself, and in comes self-analysis, perspective, and judgment of really what is going on here. What is going on in my life that I can say I am satisfied with? Possessions don't make you satisfied. Your inner peace makes you satisfied. Your health makes you satisfied. And actually, when one of the greatest lessons that you have is that you don't, from fostering, is that you don't need anything. But the other greatest lesson that you have in life is that you're doing it alone. So when you're praying alone. When you pass on, you're going to pass on your own. When you are answerable for your actions, it's going to be you on your own. So actually, everything that was around me now lost its relevance. It lost its value. The businesses lost their relevance and value. The network had lost its relevance and value. Even relationships, the bloodline relationships, they lose their relevance and value. And you now want to release yourself from all of these roots that are holding you down as this tree, and unpick each one individually to release yourself to find peace. Because in life, what you're doing is serving the family, serving the business, serving the community, serving everybody, but you don't know who you are. You don't know what your relationship is with yourself. So what happens is you now have to uproot everything that you were taught to stabilize. You undo it all, and you're going to change this because this spirituality came in. I'm living in a scene where there is a pressure and there is no peace because I'm not surrounded by those things that being in a country where, and I'll be straight with you because we are unfiltering here, I wanted to live in a Muslim country. I wanted my life to be easier. I wanted it to be simpler so I could practice with ease. In places like the UK, you can't practice. You can find a corner somewhere, but where is your surroundings? Where are the people around you that are you're journeying with? You're that one person that's following a completely different set of rules, and they're following a completely different set of rules. So you don't align, and once you align with something that agrees with you, there's a strength that comes from it. So I felt like I wanted to be surrounded by that. And I did, in my younger years, plan to retire to Turkey. When I was in business in property, we collaborated with a Turkish builder and we were selling Turkish property. So I actually bought something in Turkey in 2006, thinking that's going to be my retirement home. I'm going to retire to a Muslim country. And then I actually was planning, once these tests and trials came along, and I thought, let me do some more exploring because I really do want to fast forward that part of my journey. I don't want to wait till I'm in my 50s or 60s before I retire to a Muslim country. I want to do it now. My spirituality has come in now. My connection has come in now. And that's where I want to be. And that's what I want to live around. So along the journey, I'd spent quite a lot of time in Dubai. My daughter worked in Dubai. My brother worked in Dubai. I even got offered a job in Dubai when I was banking. And the money was really good. But actually, it didn't take me long to observe that there was no solid foundation, but there were things that were happening in Dubai, that whole bling, that whole glitter. It's not real, and not on top of that, I'm mixing with people who are way above my station and they know it. And they would look at you because of it. I was still kind of middle bander, I still had some money. But could you imagine the people that were on the bottom of this hierarchy of money and how they were treated? I saw all of that. I'm not going to go into detail on it because that could start an argument. But there were things in Dubai that I didn't like. So Dubai was ruled out, even though I was in property, even though I was finance, even though I could make lots of money in Dubai because the market was popping. So Dubai was ruled out. Turkey, yeah, option. Egypt was an option. Morocco was an option. Tunisia was an option. Anywhere that I knew, and I was Googling at this time about Muslim countries. So I'm looking down these lists. I've got to learn Arabic. I can read it in the Quran. We got taught this, but I don't know the language as well. Okay, I'm going to learn Arabic. I'll do it because I was wanting this so much from the emptiness that existed in being in the UK as a Muslim. And so I'm exploring all these countries. I visited them. You have to live somewhere to really know the country well. Holidaying isn't a real perspective. Going to a resort, meeting the people, visiting the airport and, taking a drive down a street doesn't teach you to live somewhere because we holiday. We have that fortune of going to a 5-star hotel with all-inclusive meals. We're not shopping. We're not doing the real stuff. So Turkey I did because I actually really liked Turkey because having owned a place there, we went there a lot and we did the shopping, we did the paying for the bills because it was our own place. So you kind of lived a bit there, but I ruled out Turkey because there's a language barrier. I loved the people. I loved the country. It was very close to the UK. So there was advantages. But then, of course, this Ukraine war happened and a lot of the Russians moved over to Turkey. So things were changing, dynamics were changing. And I think I was shelving Turkey as an option. I decided to then travel to Saudi because that is also where, Muslims generally believe that's the land, isn't it? Arab land. That's where the deen is. That's where Islam is because that's where we go to do Umrah, to do Hajj. And so I had previously been for Umrah. I'd previously been for Hajj. But I thought this time, let me go with the purpose in mind of, is this a place to live? And again, it gave me that Dubai feeling, that bling feeling. I know there's lots of things happening in Saudi Arabia that are changing the country from that perception that I had of it. And again, you need money to be in those countries. And it was very much like the West, people's mentality. So I thought to myself, I'm going to get the halal. I'm going to get the ease of being able to be free in how I dress and the freedom of being able to pray wherever. But the peace isn't there. That peace that I wanted, it just wasn't there. It wasn't, because I'm observing. I can see that there are less advantaged people and how they're being treated. And I can see that there was such a divide, huge divide between rich and poor. And that's just difficult to see when you're the kind of person who wants to help people and you see things like, there's no offense intended here, but you'll see this Arab family who are still shopping in boycotted companies. You see that, and it doesn't resonate well with me. And then you see the Arab family who have ordered a display of food, then sat there and picked at it and left. And you now have a table covered in food when you think, wow, you have been given so much and look how you are taking all of this for granted. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. Some people, they don't know anything. They don't know any different. They haven't been taught differently. They don't see these things. Maybe their minds aren't as open as mine is. My observations are probably a bit more than others. I don't know. Maybe I'm a deep thinker. Maybe I'm being judgmental. Who knows? But what I observed is what I'm saying to you, completely unfiltered. And I think that was not where I wanted to be. Speaking to a friend, where else is there a larger Muslim community presence? And they said, Malaysia. And I'm going to be honest with you. My perception of Malaysia was an island which has beach huts and coconuts, and that was it. It wasn't developed in any way. It was just this pretty little island with parrots flying around and this crazy Western ideology of what Malaysia was. So I didn't want to go to Malaysia. I was like, no, forget it. 14 hours, ruled it out. I'm not going. I won't travel more than 6 hours. I want to be near the UK. Why do I want to be near the UK, actually? So it was only because my brother said to me, I traveled to Brazil. That was easy. Just don't worry. We'll chat the whole journey and it'll pass. I said, okay, I'm taking your word for it because I'm close with my brother. And we took the flight and we were 14 hours passed right by really quickly because Malaysian Airlines has free Wi-Fi and it worked. And so I was on my socials the whole journey. And before I knew it, I'm in Malaysia. And where do we land? Kuala Lumpur. And I'm amazed at what was in front of me. Far more advanced, far more developed than the UK. London is period buildings, yes, but the development's not there. Not only that, we went out and we were out at night and everybody was friendly and everybody was enjoying themselves. And the interesting thing was I'm seeing mosques and I'm seeing temples and I'm seeing Indians and I'm seeing everyone and they're all coexisting very nicely and friendly. Chinese, obviously I went to Jalan Alo, I think it was, where you had variety of different foods, which done me a little bit of damage, which I'm undoing at the moment. I ate everything, I tried everything, but they were so open about, this is halal and this isn't halal. However, the majority of places you went to were halal, and we were getting to enjoy varieties of food, varieties of culture, but tech. The place is advanced. You think that the UK is advanced. I'm telling you, Malaysia, even... That was obviously Kuala Lumpur. That's the city. You would think that, okay, maybe they're just that much more advanced than everywhere else. The living standards, maybe I'm from the West and I have the budget for it, but the living standard still exists. That's what I'm trying to say, and is there for you to have. So you don't have to aspire to be in a country where, the exchange rate is better when you have absolutely everything here on your doorstep and better. So I came to KL. We did some exploring and it was hustle, bustle, busy. I'm not used to high-rise buildings. I'm not used to the apartment life. So people said, go to Penang. Where should we go? We had 2 weeks. It was December. And they said, go to Penang. It's very beautiful. We want to experience the nature, the beautiful side of this island and, what the world has to offer. So they said Penang. So en route, somebody suggested we stop at Melaka because it was a journey. And I'm not into road trips. I'm not into doing long distance driving. Somebody suggests Melaka. So I thought, right, let's do that. There was me, my youngest, my son and my brother. We hired a tour guide and they took us around Melaka. Best experience of our life. Landed us here because you had a relaxed atmosphere. You had actually so many things. Your roads. Now, this might sound crazy, but the roads, the driving is very much the same as the UK, except for it's a much more pleasant experience. It's not grey. It's not dull. There's a lot of greenery. The driving is not that bad. Like some people were saying, how are they on the roads? No, the roads were absolutely fine. But there's just this element of peace and lightness about being in Malaysia, being in Melaka. So we experienced some of the history. I had no idea that the British were here and that they had ruled over the land for such a long period of time. And the influences were present. The 3-pin plug, easy. The driving on the right-hand side, easy. The exchange rate, great. The lifestyle, fabulous. People, chilled out, easygoing, friendly. Now, that might be because I'm from the UK, but I still observe and I can still see how people treat one another. And you're not just being kind to me because I'm British. You're being yourselves, and your personality is showing with the way that you're interacting with other people. And there was a humbleness in the air. Just because somebody was wealthier didn't mean that they treated somebody badly. So now already I'm warming to this atmosphere. I'm warming to the people. I'm warming to the peace that I'm feeling. But I can still see how there is still a lot of opportunity here. Your education system is amazing, actually. Your facilities, medical, compared to the UK, are outstanding. If you go to the UK right now and you went into a hospital, you would be disappointed at what you saw. The queues, the people, the way that people are treated, it's just, I don't know how to even describe it. You can't see a doctor. People are being pushed with pills. Here you have conventional medication, but you also have alternatives. You have homeopaths, you have Chinese doctors, you have lots of alternative health supplements that have been passed on through generations. You have self-care. You have self-care of yourself, you have self-care of other people, and that does not exist in a Western world because, as I told you before, the Westerners will value you for your worth, your clothing, your shoes, your bag, your car, your house. That's when you'll get some value. Otherwise, I can tell you, if you were to go there with very little, you wouldn't find many that will help you. You'll find plenty that will judge you. You won't find that support. You'll scrape to find your own people who will give you a little bit of support and help. But because they're so lost in their own, because the pressure that exists in the UK, whether you are rich or poor, there is a pressure and a burden that you feel that weighs you down and takes you away from the real purpose of life. And I think that is what I learned by uprooting myself and loosening all of my ties, business, home, family, and to choose Malaysia as the destination of where I wanted to live because I experienced it. Followed on to Penang. Oh, no, I lie. We didn't even make it to Penang. We settled in Melaka and we just enjoyed ourselves because we wanted to just chill out, and Melaka just gave us all of it. And another reason Melaka was chosen was actually because of how close it is to KL. It's not as close as places like Putrajaya and Selangor, but it was far out enough to give us what we felt. There was a good feeling, and there's great feelings everywhere else in Malaysia, but I just felt more comfortable at home. And so I settled to buy a house in Melaka, and that's exactly what we did. And I'm just going through the motions of that. And really, what this whole life's experience has given me more than anything, for myself and for my children, and I aim to drag in as many people as I can. And I've done TikToks, I've done YouTubes, and I've explained to people the truth of what I've experienced. And the fact that there is, you immerse yourself into so many cultures, not just the one culture. Everybody is welcoming and everybody is open to everybody else's culture. You have exposure to language. You can broaden your perspectives. You can learn about new traditions and new ways of life from the ones that you've experienced. And all of that gives you something personally. It gives you growth. It gives you adaptability. It gives you an open-mindedness that didn't exist previously. This place in Malaysia, you're surrounded by so much kindness and humble people that it really brings you back. And the benefit is that you can pray wherever you want to pray, and there's places for that. It's very clean, very, very clean. Let me tell you, your country is very clean compared to the UK. The UK is a mess. There's the standards, like even things like the bins being collected twice a week. That doesn't happen in the UK. Your bins get collected once a week. They're overflowing, and it's not nice. There's parts of the UK, and I know that Malaysia, there'll be parts of Malaysia that the standards have probably dropped a little bit, but you can't say, when the world is saying the West and the UK, first world country, and they're looking down at everybody else and saying that they're second and third world countries. But when I've come here, what I've explored, what I've seen is better. I am telling you, it is better. And to love that country that you're in, and I do love my home. I can't change that. I was born there. I was grown there, fashioned there. I'm always going to have a part of me that feels England. But I felt what I felt here, the welcome, the love, and how do you change your settling? How do you do it? It's because of everything around you and the people and the country. There's nothing that it hasn't given me that I didn't have in the UK. Hence why when I go back, it'll be a short stay and I'll be dying to come back here. And I'll be doing everything that I can within my powers and the people that I meet and gaining their support to make sure that I stay here. I'm fortunate enough to have money that comes from there to here, so I have a good lifestyle. But luckily, I'm not extravagant. I'm not frivolous. I'm sensible with my money, and I use what is required for me, and I will utilize the rest of what I have for giving purposes and stabilizing. And I've got kids, right? So, this is what I'm experiencing here, and you will have a deeper understanding of the world, because in the East, your personalities are significantly much more different. I was born in the UK. I have a feeling of entitlement. I feeling that I am special. I feel that I have something, because that's the way they train you to behave. You behave almost in some instances intimidating to other people, because that's the way you were trained to behave. You feel like you have power over other people. You feel like you are stronger than somebody else. And that's what you are trained to behave and be when you are in the UK. I love what the people of Malaysia teach each other, and the humbleness, the friendliness, the sincerity. It's just what creates this peace in this country. And I think that is something you should never, ever lose sight of, because don't need the money. You need your health, you need peace. And as I was saying to somebody earlier, if you have to go down to sleeping on a beach, that's the mindset that you should have. If you have absolutely nothing, a rucksack of clothes, and you are now completely homeless, it shouldn't matter. As long as you get that meal for the day, you get to sleep under somewhere when there's a thunderstorm in Malaysia, if that happens, then you're in the best place. The best place, because there is it's an energy. The energy here is positive, and it is stronger than the energy that exists in the West. That's something that comes from humanity. And we're experiencing a lot of grounding with humanity in the current situations that are happening around the world. And it's really beautiful to see changes in mentality and people and behaviors. So I think that I have talked about this enough today, and explains really why I came to Malaysia and why everybody else and anybody else in the world, if you're thinking of moving somewhere when you're in a Western style upbringing, then it's worth exploring Malaysia and seeing what this place has for you, because I'm the most liberal, forward-minded, open-minded, adventurous person in the world. And I can tell you that I have no desire to go to any other country in the world. I wish to explore what is here around me, and I'm pretty certain that it's going to satisfy. So that's all from me, Saira Hayati, unfiltered at Malaysia Gazette. Opportunity and life can bring all sorts of changes. And the only way that's going to happen is if you take steps, open doors, and try.